Welcome back. In the previous video, we have added the update functionality to our application, and in this video, we will be working on patch functionality. Let's quickly see the difference between patch and update. So patch HTTP call can update the one or more properties. Put HTTP call will update the all the properties. So since if you will see the heading here, patch to do, and here we are saying update completed property. So in the UI we have this checkbox and it is actually our completed status. So let's say whenever this task is completed, we can click on this checkbox and say this task is completed, and whenever we launch our application, it should return the our status of the completed. So our first task is we need to create the patch to do status method inside http.service.ts file. This http patch method will call the http patch call and then send the specific properties. So to call this API, we need the same URL as delete to do and update to do. So we need to append the ID at the URL, and then it will also require the updated value of the completed property. So let's say whenever we are clicking and unchecking again, so we have to first send the true value and then we have to send the false value. Let's define the function. Let's write the code. So our first task is completed. We have added the patch to do status method inside service file. It is taking ID and completed status, and then we have the patch URL. We just append the ID similar like delete to do and update to do, and then we are calling the patch call and sending the completed property value either true or false. Now let's see our second task. So our second task is create the patch to do status method inside the component ts app component ts file. It will call the service patch to do method. So now we will call this service patch to do method just now we define, and then it will get the updated value of the completed property from the HTML along with ID. So our HTML will send the ID and completed property status to this component function, and then component function will be sent to our service function. And our last task on this step 2 is on successful response, call the get to dos method to get all the to dos in UI. Let's write the code. Now our second task is completed. We have defined the function patch to do status, and this function getting ID, or we can say having the parameter as ID and completed status, and then same parameter we are sending to our service file. Once we get the response from service, we are again calling the get to dos method to get the updated to dos. Now our third task is we need to update the app component.html file. Here the first task is add ng model with one-way data binding to checkbox. So we can refer our blog, and here we have this patch to do step 21. So if you will see in this app update app component.html file, we have added ng model with one-way data binding. So what it will do, whenever we iterate to do's, it will come our completed status, and then we will show that completed status value, or we can say we are updating our checkbox. So why this is needed, like let's say when you refresh the application, so we want to show the updated value of our checkbox whether it is completed or not. And second task in this, add change method to call the component patch to do status method. So from this change function, whenever we will click on this checkbox, immediately we call this function patch to do status, and here we will pass the id and the completed status. Let's write the code. Now our third task is completed. We have added ng model, and since this ng model from the forms module, so we also added forms module in our app module.ts file, and then this model ng model is binded to the property completed. It means whenever this to do's will iterate in the UI, maybe through the change detection or load time, so it will provide the updated value to this checkbox whether it is checked or unchecked. And we change this checkbox through the UI from this check uncheck. We are calling this change function patch to do status and sending id and completed to this function. And here we are having not operator. So let's say if task is not completed, so we want to send this as a true, because now we are saying it is completed. And if the task is completed, then we will send this as a false. So just we are changing the value using this not operator, and this is actually not a not operator. So let's see why we have added this exclamation mark sign into our to do id. So we know this id, actually this is the to do, and if you will see this function, and here we are expecting this id as a number, but we are iterating this to do from this to do, and this to do having type as to do. And if you will see type to do, and here we have id as a optional property. So HTML knows that, or we can say TypeScript knows that this property is not a mandatory property, so it may be null or undefined. So TypeScript compiler is complaining either you can change this number or undefined type, or else we can say if our id is never be undefined, so we can add this exclamation mark sign and say it is never be undefined or null. So what this is actually, so this is definite assignment assertion feature from TypeScript 2.7.2, and it makes our compiler happy and we will not get any error. Let's see in the browser whether our application is working fine or not. Let's open the network tab, click on the checkbox. We can see we call the patch method with id, and then we are getting the 200 status. It means when we refresh, we will see the updated status.